We begin with the extreme weather we're seeing in both the east and out west.
Yeah, in the northeast, summer storms unleashed torrential rain, stranding motorists in Philadelphia, collapsing roofs in Rhode Island. While in the west, brutally hot and dry conditions are smashing records and fueling deadly wildfires. With most of California under a heat alert, officials there are urging people to reduce their power use, warning that the power grid cannot withstand the demand. NBC News meteorologist Michelle Grossman will have the latest forecast for us in a moment, but we want to start with NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson, who is in Burbank, California. Steve, good morning. I mean, this heat wave in California has gone on for more than a week now, and there is real concern over the power grid there. What's the latest?
Yeah, Joe, you know, the first thing I have to say is that by no means is this over. These emergency alerts, this extreme weather expected to last at least the remainder of the week, with the alerts not expiring until about Friday night. But the next thing I have to say is that if there was a decisive battle in Alamo, Helms Deep, it would have been the late hours of last night. And by and large, California officials say, thanks almost primarily to the conservation of its citizens, we avoided rolling blackouts last night. But man, were we close. We were at an emergency alert 3 sometime around 6 o'clock or so last night. And emergency alert 3 is when the demand outstrips the supply of the grid. Had we made an emergency alert 4, that would have been a total capsation of the system. That would have meant rolling blackouts across the state, which you can imagine would be its own dangerous situation. But we got one of those alerts on your phone, almost like, getting an Amber Alert where it just takes over your whole phone sometime around 6 o'clock last night as well. That was from California officials. Those officials say almost immediately after that, they saw the numbers drop. Those conservation numbers went up. The numbers of energy usage came down immediately. That saved us. That saved us from those rolling blackouts. The citizens listened to the demand, listened to what was going on, and they made a change. I wish I could say that would mean it's not going to be hot again today and tomorrow and the next day. It's still a very, very dangerous situation, but we made it out of one of the worst scenarios possible.
Yeah, if only Californians could actually control the temperature by their energy use. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those times when you need air conditioning, you need energy. Yes. So what are officials saying about how to stay safe while also reducing their energy use?
Well, I mean, obviously, you don't want to be out in this whatsoever for any length of time. And if you are, you have to stay hydrated. It is so, so crucial. And if you feel anything, if the sweat that it normally is just pouring down at all times stops, that means you're in an early phase of heat stroke and they tell you to get indoors. Conservation, though, is really the big deal here. This is not over. I have to say it over and over again. So using your appliances in those crucial hours, anytime between 4 and 10 p.m. It's called a flex alert. They're telling people just to help us out. You have to stop that because, if you keep doing that, the grid will get overloaded. We'll get to a situation in which, they could think about rolling blackouts. That's not good for anybody. I want to tell you, we broke the record for energy usage despite all of this last night. 52,000 megawatts. That's never happened before in California history. We did it, and we did it without, a huge disaster.
And Steve, it's hard to imagine being a firefighter in this heat. They're facing multiple wildfires, including one in SoCal. It's called the Fairview Fire. It's killed 2 people. Quickly, what's the latest on that one?
Yeah, we expect another briefing this morning, maybe in about an hour and a half or so. But, it remains still only 5% contained or so, 2,400 acres. That number will go up. 7 homes destroyed. That number inevitably will go up. We're expecting to learn a little bit more about how this happened and the 2 people that became trapped and unfortunately lost their lives in that fire.
All right, Joe. Steve Patterson reporting from California. Steve, thank you.
And now our weather coverage continues with your Morning News Now weather check.
Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is here with that. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And we're going to see those temperatures continuing, as Steve said, once again today, also tomorrow, Friday, and then a little relief comes over the weekend. Still well above normal for this time of year, but not well into the triple digits. So today, 50 million impacted by a heat advisory or an excessive heat warning. The excessive heat warning is in the pink. That includes Redding, Sacramento, Fresno, Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, and also Las Vegas. We're going to see those temperatures really soaring once again. So sizzling still out west We're looking at temperatures 105 in Salt Lake City, and these temperatures are 10, 20, even 30 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. Denver near 100 degrees at 16 degrees above average. Fresno 109, Sacramento 109. Yesterday they made it to a high of 116. Still today, 18 degrees above what is average for this time of year. Now notice Thursday and Friday still into the triple digits in so many spots. Bakersfield 107 on Thursday, 106 on Friday, but there's that small relief. They'll take any relief. So by Saturday, we're looking at 97 degrees. Palm Springs, 86. That's going to feel a lot better. And Las Vegas into the low 90s. Now, we're worried about the wildfire risk. Once again, we're at an extremely critical risk. I'll show you that graphic in just a minute. But we're looking at 65 large fires burning. Lots of smoke. It's impacting the air quality, and this smoke is being carried as far as the Midwest. So we're going to continue to watch that story because that's going to be a big one as we go throughout time here. The winds are blowing today. We're also looking at the chance for some severe storms. So we do expect some dry lightning. That's when the rain evaporates when it reaches the ground. We're looking at winds gusting to 60 miles per hour at times, and that's why we're particularly concerned about this fire threat. Where you see that hot pink, that's an extreme critical risk. That's in the northern plains, the high plains, and we're looking at those winds blowing. It's so hot, it's so dry, so conditions are ripe for wildfires. As we go throughout the rest of today, guys, we're looking at showers and storms in portions of the southeast and could see some lingering showers in the northeast as well. Back to you.
All right, Michelle, busy morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle.
This morning, there are new developments in the search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence.
Citing people familiar with the matter, the Washington Post is reporting that one of the documents seized by the FBI, quote, describes a foreign government's military defenses, including its nuclear capabilities. It adds that some of the top secret documents are so closely guarded that many senior national security officials are even, quote, kept in the dark about them. NBC News has not confirmed the Post report, and the Department of Justice declined to comment. We've got NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley here on set for more on this. Julia, great to have you with us in studio. Good to see you. So first, just walk us through some of the key details of this report. What is Trump's camp saying about it? And if confirmed, what implications does this have for the broader investigation?
Yeah, it's so good to be with you guys talking this through in person. So, like you said, we haven't confirmed the details of this yet, but the Washington Post is reporting that this is about key details of a foreign government's nuclear program. We don't know what government that is, but you could see how not only would those details be important, but if it reveals sources of information, that's where people like the director of national intelligence would get really nervous. If you have to pull someone out of the field because all of a sudden they've become compromised, the person or people who are able to give that information to the United States, that's highly sensitive. Again, so sensitive, only a small number of people were supposed to see it. And we have already seen Trump's camp comment on this. Today, his director of communications started commenting on this on Twitter, saying that this was just another piece of the Washington Post continuing to serve as a propaganda arm of the Biden administration. Instead of operating openly and honestly, they collude in never-ending leaks and lies at the expense of the FBI and DOJ. Obviously, Trump not missing the chance here to go after the FBI, the Justice Department, and the Washington Post, which he would want to say are conspiring against him. But honestly, you know, the more we see reporting on this, the more critical it becomes just how sensitive these documents were and how high the bar was for the Justice Department to take the step in the first place to conduct that search in August.
Why we are where we are right now.
Exactly.
So the DOJ right now is still deciding whether to appeal that controversial decision by the judge to appoint a special master, a third party, to review the documents. Where does that stand? Are they going to do it?
Well, their deadline to put forward a candidate is Friday. So either they decide to appeal it in this very narrow window, or they have to put forward a candidate on Friday that the judge would hear. I thought it was interesting. Former Attorney General under Trump, Bill Barr, said that he didn't agree with the special master decision by that judge, and he thinks DOJ should appeal.
And Julia, while we have you, Hillary Clinton made some news. She had this interview with CBS. She commented on this, but also what's kind of making even more headlines here are some comments on Trump's alleged role in the Capitol riot, also comments herself about her losing the election. Tell us about what she said.
Right. She's basically saying that even in the position she was in, losing the election to Donald Trump, which made her unhappy, she would have never gone forward with something like what she says Donald Trump is responsible for, that being the insurrection on the Capitol. Here's what she had to say to CBS.
I would not be honest if I didn't say I think there was a seditious conspiracy against the government of the United States, and that's a crime.
Led by Donald Trump.
Led by Donald Trump. Was I happy when I beat Donald Trump by nearly 3 million votes but lost the Electoral College? No, I was not happy. Did I even for a nanosecond think I'm going to claim victory and try to get the Democrats to refuse to certify the election? No.
So a very candid exchange there from the former Secretary of State and former opponent of Trump. We haven't seen Trump comment yet on this, but something we're looking out for. He doesn't usually miss an opportunity to comment, especially when Hillary Clinton's involved.
Tell me that is to come.
All right, Julia, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Again,
it's
so
good
great
to
have
be
you
here.
with us. Yeah. Come back to 30 Rock more.
Let's move on to the governor's race in Massachusetts. In one of the final primaries before the November midterms, Republicans there chose Jeff Deal, a former state representative endorsed by Trump, over businessman Chris Doty, who was considered the more moderate pick. Deal's win is the latest victory for a Trump-backed candidate in a GOP primary, but he'll face a stiff challenge in one of the nation's most liberal states. Only 10% of Bay State voters are registered Republicans.
Deal will face Attorney General Maura Healey, who handily won the Democratic primary in the general election this fall. If Healey were to win that contest, she would become the state's first openly gay and first woman to serve as governor. The two candidates are vying to fill the vacancy left by the current governor, Republican Charlie Baker, who chose not to seek a third term.
The pivotal Senate race in Pennsylvania is ramping up. Dr. Mehmet Oz is on the attack against Democrat John Fetterman, who has refused to debate since suffering a stroke in May. And both candidates are getting presidential-level support, with President Biden and Mr. Trump on the ground in the battleground state over the weekend. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has more.
The critical state of Pennsylvania is at the center of the political universe this week.
He's going to work and fight for Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Dr. Mehmet Oz facing an uphill battle to win his Senate race, a loss being a critical blow to Republicans' chances of winning back the Senate.
Doctors fix things. I would actively work to change us for the better.
Polls are showing Oz trailing Democrat John Fetterman, who campaigned alongside President Biden on Monday night in Pittsburgh, slamming Oz as an outsider.
How many homes does Dr. Oz have? 9, 10, 11?
But Fetterman so far refusing to debate Oz after suffering a stroke in May.
John Fetterman is either healthy and he's dodging the debates because he does not want to answer for his radical left positions, or he's too sick to participate in the debate.
Can you even imagine that if you had a doctor that was mocking your illness? Ridiculing that? Well, here we are.
Oz, in a state that Joe Biden won, walking a tightrope.
If you had been in the U.S. Senate on January 6th of 2021, would you have objected to the certification of the 2020 election and Joe Biden's win?
I would not have objected to it. By the time the delegates and those reports were sent to the U.S. Senate, our job was to approve it, which is what I would have done.
But also appealing to Trump loyal voters.
I believe in each and every one of you, and so should you. God bless you. This November, we're going to stand up to this rising tyranny of sickness, lawlessness, and death, and we are going to take back our country.
President Biden with his own attacks aimed at Trump.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
One of those MAGA Republicans, Doug Mastriano, running for governor of Pennsylvania. He was outside the Capitol on January 6th and has said he would not have certified Biden's win in the state. His Democratic opponent running this ad against him.
Body my choice is ridiculous nonsense.
Candidate Josh Shapiro telling NBC's Mike Memoli,
I'm running against the most extreme and dangerous candidate in the nation. Someone who talks openly about denying women the ability to make decisions over their own bodies. Someone who's talked about rigging the 2024 election already.
Now, as these two Republicans, Mastriano and Oz, try to forge their own paths forward, Oz was asked whether he will support his fellow Republican. He said, notably, that yes, he will support Mastriano in the full slate of Republican candidates, but stopped short of saying whether he would actually campaign alongside him or not. For Democrats, this U.S. Senate race is perhaps their best pickup opportunity here, and it's important to note that early voting begins in just a few weeks.
Coming quickly, thank you, Vaughn.
Now, a settlement has been reached between e-cigarette maker Juul and nearly 36 states in an investigation into its marketing and sales practices. The states argue that Juul intentionally targeted teens with its ads and marketing strategies, which they say created a vaping crisis among the nation's youth. Juul agreed to pay nearly $439 million, but the company is not acknowledging any wrongdoing in the settlement. They say they're trying to, quote, resolve issues from the past, and that the settlement agreement was, quote, aligned with our current business practices, which we started to implement after our company-wide reset in the fall of 2019. Mark Gottlieb, a public health and research attorney who has worked in the field of commercial tobacco control for nearly 30 years, joins us now. Mark, thanks for being here. So let's walk through this. Tell us about the terms of this settlement first and how the money is going to be paid out to these states and who's going to benefit.
Well, it's, as you mentioned, just under $439 million. It's unclear on the schedule for payment. It's going to be probably over the next 4 to 6 years, and it's going to go to the states, much like the master settlement agreement money went to the states in the late 1990s when all those attorneys general settled with the cigarette companies. And many of the states hopefully will use some of this money for cessation efforts to help many of those teens, millions of them, in fact, who are addicted to Juul and to nicotine from using Juul.
Now, people might remember some of kind of this back and forth and drama here that surrounded Juul, even apart from this particular settlement. Just in June, the FDA ordered Juul to stop selling its products, full stop. But then a court banned that. The court blocked the FDA ban. So the products are still now for sale in the United States, temporarily at least. That's pending the FDA's scientific review of the company's technology as a whole. What will that review be looking at, and what are potential outcomes from that?
Well, the review is supposedly going to take a closer look at the chemical compositions of the products and what their impact on public health could be. I suspect part of the motivation for the settlement was, in fact, if Juul is on the hook to pay to more than half the states millions and millions of dollars a year, I think that puts some pressure on the FDA not to ban the products from the U.S. market entirely, because if they do that, then I don't think that Juul will necessarily be able to make those payments. So that may be part of Juul's strategy here.
That's an interesting point. All right, Mark, quickly before I let you go, this settlement, while it might be reached, Juul is still involved in several other legal battles. Give us a quick rundown on those.
Yeah, there's thousands of claims pending against Juul. Some of the states that haven't settled include California, New York, and Massachusetts, where I'm based. There are class actions. There are thousands of individual personal injury cases, and there are cases brought by school systems that lost time and resources because of what Juul had done, addicting basically a generation of teens from 2016 really through 2019. So there's quite a reckoning still to come for Juul.
Mark Gottlieb, thank you so much. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.